Hey, g'day. Welcome to the Hidden Why podcast. Lee Martinuzzi here with you, and this is episode 1168. Great to have you with me today. Today, I've got a fantastic guest. Her name is Nicki Sizemore. She is a chef, author, and mindfulness teacher. And we're not going to teach you how to cook today or become a better cook, potentially. We're going to teach you how to bring more intention into these daily practices, including how we can bring more intention into the kitchen. She found with the stresses of life, motherhood, work, etc., that she really lost the joy for cooking, and she's a passionate foodie. So she discovered something simple, and that was just to bring in rituals and mindfulness into the kitchen to find more joy. And we can do this for all mundane even practices that we have in daily life. It's about bringing more intention into our lives. And if we can bring more intention into the moment, we become more present. And really the present moment is what matters the most in regards to your overall joy. I really believe that we're often on the hamster wheel of life, chasing goals, future expectations, or caught up in the past, and we forget to really breathe in the moment. So this is a great episode. I hope you enjoy it, guys. Reach out to Nicki. All her details are in the show notes, episode 1168. Hope you enjoy it, and I'll chat at the other end. Hello, Nicki. Welcome to the Hidden Why podcast. Great to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me on.
I'm looking forward to this conversation because I'm a massive foodie. I love getting in the kitchen. And I'm also fond of mindfulness and meditation, which you incorporated in it all.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I was just thinking before this conversation, I was like thinking about my childhood and how I've always been a bit of a seeker, right? But I've also always been so drawn to the kitchen. And I never would have imagined that those two things would have combined into a career, which is my path now. It's just it's so amazing how life works.
What do you mean seeker? Like you're always a seeker?
I just think I've always been seeking depth. I've always wanted to go deeper, and I've always wanted the deeper story behind whatever it is, whether we're talking just like childhood stories, but also understanding the world in a deeper way.
Yeah.
And I guess that lends itself into spirituality. But for me, what I mean by spirituality is just connection, like deeper connection with the people around me, with the earth, with myself, with all of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Were you raised in a spiritual family or?
No. Well, I was raised in the Midwest in the United States. And we were Catholic as a kid. And actually, it's interesting because I have a lot of wounds from that time. And this is not to diminish the Catholic faith in any way. This is just my personal experience with it. But it really ingrained in me a lot of guilt and a lot of shame around my body, around a lot of things, really. A sense of kind of distrust of myself because the church we went to, it was kind of like, God is up here, you do good. If not, you are bad and you are going to hell. And so in a way that I'm so grateful for that experience because it's, as an adult, I've rewritten that for myself. And yeah, my family did stop going to church at some point when I was probably in my young teens, and then really just kind of stopped all of it. And so it wasn't until I was in college that I started to explore all these different religions. And I didn't realize, how my worldview was so informed by this one viewpoint of Catholicism. I had no idea about Buddhism or Eastern religions or even mindfulness or what that means. So it was a real eye-opening time in my young 20s and set me down a path of just exploration. And I find a lot of joy. And I guess maybe that goes into the seeking as well. Just a lot of joy in the exploration of it all.
Yeah, I love it. Do you align yourself with any particular religious practice at the moment?
I don't. I have a lot of spiritual practices. I mean, I have a morning meditation practice.
Yeah.
I have a lot of little rituals that help me to tap in to myself, but also to something beyond, and whether that's being in nature and just being exposed to the awe and wonder of being outside, or I think a lot of that has to do with intention. And that's, I think we're going to get into today because that's a really big focus of my book. But
Hmm.
finding moments of quiet, but bringing intention into them. So it's not
Right.
just that I'm sitting there kind of just like numbing out, but really intentionally being present for whatever shows up or whatever little, I was just on a walk yesterday and my AirPods weren't working. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to walk. And it was like, I forgot. Sometimes we like take a walk and we're like, oh, I got to listen to this new podcast episode. I got to do this. And I was like, I forgot the joy of just walking outside and
Yeah.
the things that showed up for me in that walk. I mean, not even just like the deer that was standing 2 feet away from me, but really the ideas, the creativity that was
Yeah.
allowed to bubble up because I
Yeah.
wasn't just in distraction mode.
Consuming. Yeah. I find that fascinating because I've just bought some new AirPods as well, and I was quite excited about them. But I'm
Mhm.
intentionally would go on my walk, and I intentionally switched off because I just want to walk. I
Mm.
take my dog for a walk, and I didn't want any noise coming through. I just wanted to be with myself and walking. And almost was tempted to put them in the other day, and I didn't, thankfully, because I
Yeah.
really find, I can listen to a podcast later on or when I'm in the gym or something, but on that walk, I just want that half an hour where I'm just in my
Yeah.
own thoughts, and it's powerful.
Yeah. It's so powerful. And I think more needed now, maybe than ever before, because we are bombarded with information at a higher rate than ever before in the past, whether that's
Yeah,
on our phones or even just driving and, just so much sensory information. So to give ourselves some time for quiet is really important.
yeah. Well, it's our attention, right? That's just getting
Yeah.
stolen from us. So,
Yeah.
congratulations on your newest book, Mind, Body, Spirit, Food. I don't know if you've got a copy of that, but we will put a link in the show notes for everyone to have a look at. As I said, I'm a massive foodie. I love getting in the kitchen. So I was really excited to have you as a guest on my show and talk about this topic. But I want to hear, and I know you've got a podcast as well, right?
I do. Same name, Mind, Body, Spirit, Food. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, lovely. So I want to talk a bit about your backstory, and because I know you went through
Mm.
some burnout, and then you got back into the kitchen and you found new joy there. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I've been, like I said, like as a kid, I've always been drawn to food. I never really considered it as a something I could do to make a living
Hmm.
until I moved to New York City in my young 20s after college. Even in college, I remember my guidance counselor, we were like looking at all these companies that I might potentially work for, and every single one of them was a food company. But I didn't realize until I went to New York City that actually there's a huge food industry that doesn't involve being a restaurant chef. I did not want to go into a restaurant kitchen
Right.
and worked in the city for a few years and finally decided to go to culinary school and did that in 2005. And I've been in the food space ever since and in many different capacities as a food writer, producer. I've done video hosting. I have a blog called From Scratch Fast with hundreds of recipes. And it was in that blogging time. I had written 3 books and I
Yeah.
had built this successful blog. I had built this business. It was what I set out to do. And I found myself without a voice. I mean, interestingly, like I actually lost my voice, which is really interesting. But when you're running a website, I think food blogs started and they were just kind of like diaries and people could write what they want. And it turned into it, and it still is a business. And I was writing content really for Google because you're writing content
Yeah.
for search engine optimization,
Mm.
And I think actually I just got an email the other day from an SEO expert, and you're supposed to write to, I think it was fourth grade, to a fourth grade level of reading. And that's best practices for Google. And so this business is built on ads. And so for people, for it to become a business, people have to open, like if they're searching like homemade chicken noodle soup, you've got to flood it with certain things. So people open the link and then they've got all these ads. Long story short, I completely lost my voice. I had 2 young kids at the time, and I found myself in a state of massive burnout. And the kitchen, the place where that has always nourished me, but I want to say that as a caveat because food, I've had a very complicated relationship with food in my early 20s. Um,
Mm.
but I found myself like dinner hour, which is really my favorite time of the day, had become the most stressful time of the day.
Right.
And then in the background, I've got all this work stuff that's not even fulfilling me anymore. And yet I'm teaching people how to get dinner on the table every night. From Scratch Fast was the name of my blog. And at home, I was completely failing at that. I mean, I was getting dinner on the table, sure, the outcome was there, but the process was one of misery. I
Yeah.
was physically unwell. I was mentally unwell. I was spiritually unwell. And that was the kind of the rut, the bottom out, where one night I was just like, not again. Why has this become so stressful? And I knew that I had to make a change. Like I couldn't expect my kids to start acting, very calm, and all of the external factors were still going to be there. So what could I do to bring the joy back into the kitchen? And
Mm.
that ended up being the genesis for the book, which I never knew would become a book. This was many, many years ago. But it started like so simply with that mindfulness practice that I've had since my early 20s. I would get in the kitchen and it was all out the door. Like I said, like there was such this separation
Mm.
between the two. So it started with like the simplest thing of like bringing breath. Like, let's just take a few breaths. Nicki, let's just take a few breaths before you jump into cooking. Can we pause? And I had to really practice the pause because that wasn't my automated habit. I would just get home. The kids would be running around. I'd be helping with homework. I'd be jumping into cooking. I'd be thinking about the stresses of the day. I'd be thinking about what was on my to-do list. And I would never stop. I would never pause. So it started with like this pause in my day. And then slowly I started to bring in this idea of intention into the kitchen.
Yeah.
And that's where things really shifted.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean, the kitchen is such a joy for me to jump in there.
Yeah.
But I can relate to those moments where it's just like overwhelming stress. It's like a chore almost rather than
It
a joy.
becomes a chore. And like you said, like it really does take the slightest little simplest of shifts to turn it into something that feels like a chore,
Mm.
into this opportunity for like sensory satisfaction and pleasure and play, and all of those things are available. And sometimes it's just these little minute shifts, these little perception, like perspective changes that we
Yeah.
can bring to the
Yeah.
situation to, change our state of being. And I think that's what intention does. Intention is, they're little words or phrases, that guide how we want to be. So if we can pause for a second, notice where we are
Mm.
and notice where we want to be. And that can be anything. Like, I want to feel comforted. I want to slow down. I want to play. I will, whatever it is, how do you want it to be? We can use intention as like a little pathway to start guiding us there so that the cooking process actually leads us towards where we want to be instead
Yeah.
of this thing we have to do.
Hmm. And I think that's probably why a lot of people don't like the kitchen and try and avoid it because it's that
Yeah.
stressful time of the day, particularly if
Yeah.
you're a mum, you're looking after kids or a dad. Um, you don't have that joy in it. But there's a lot
Yeah.
of things like we can talk about intention with everything we do.
Yeah.
And, I often relate, this is maybe a funny story, but hanging out the washing, it's not my favorite thing to do, or ironing clothes. But I have to remind
Yes.
myself that I can find joy in anything if I set the
Yeah.
right intention to do it.
Yeah. I just read
So,
a book called This is Happiness. And I'm forgetting the author's name. He's an Irish author, but I was writing about that in my newsletter because you can say those words in so many of the most mundane, ordinary moments of life. Like, this is happiness. And maybe it doesn't feel like happiness right away, but if you really sit there, there is joy to be found
mm,
anytime, any place, really, truly.
yeah,
As impossible as that seems, even, in a hospital room with a sick relative, I have found glimmers of joy, or at least glimmers of like love or satisfaction. And so it's it's a practice, I think, to open ourselves
yeah.
to it.
It's connecting with the moment. What is intention for you? Like, how do we define intention, and then how do we establish that? What practices do you have that we could share?
hmm And so I defined intention as a guidepost that it guides how you want to, it's a word or phrase that guides how you want to be. It's
Hmm.
not a goal. It's not an outcome. It's not like I will make the best roast chicken. It's like, no, how do you want to feel? How do you want this experience to feel? And it really forces us, especially in cooking, which can be so outcome driven, like, oh, I just got to get dinner on the table. How many times, like for busy families who are cooking for other people, how many times have you thought that? And of course, we are going to have stages where we think that, but like, I just got to get this thing done. Or on the flip side, this idea of perfectionism, and we're in the age of social media where everyone is posting their incredible meals on Instagram, and it's like, oh, I got to make this so perfect. My friends are coming over, and we forget, like it becomes so outcome driven where we miss the whole point is in the
Yeah.
process. And if a little intention, if we set that intention before we begin, and it takes seconds, it shifts that process. It shifts how we feel. And what is really cool, and this was one outcome that I had not expected, is it actually makes you a better cook. It is absolutely because when we are in that sense of like, say it's been a really stressful day, and
Yeah.
your intention is, I will find comfort. I will find comfort. And you're not going to feel it right away, but you're just going to keep coming back to it. Your mind is going to wander. You're going to reach for the onions. You're going to start chopping, but you're going to come back to that intention. Oh, wait, I will find comfort. And then maybe you add them to the pan and you're watching it sizzle for a second. And there it is, like a little glimmer of comfort. And so what it does, these intentions, and it builds, like the more we notice it, the more it builds. It's a snowball effect. But what it does is it brings us into the present moment. And that is the number one trick for becoming a better cook. To become reciprocal with the foods we're making instead of like autopilot. And that's when stuff is burning or we're trying to follow a recipe, but we're kind of disconnected to our own sensory experience of what's actually happening. When we're connected and present, we become more confident, empowered cooks, and we're
Mm,
responding to the food in front of us.
mm.
So, intention is like the doorway. I think it's the doorway in to all of
Yeah.
that.
So you said you had some practices like just have a breath before you start.
Hmm
Is there anything else in
Yes.
particular you've found useful to
Yes.
find intention?
Yes. So, within the scope of the kitchen, or anytime we are crossing the threshold from one part of our day to another, for me, cooking is one of those spaces. We are now going to cook ourselves breakfast, lunch, or dinner, snack, whatever it is. To just pausing to take two deep breaths brings us into that present moment, starts to regulate our nervous system so we're not bringing the anxieties of the day in with
Yeah.
us. But then also a little ritual can be super helpful. I interviewed Michael Norton, who's a behavior scientist, on my podcast, and he explained to me like a ritual can be absolutely anything as long as it's done with intention. So my ritual now is I grab my apron. I used to like never wear aprons because I was like, I am not going to be a domestic housewife wearing an apron. It was a stupid story I told myself. I
Funny you
love
say
my
that.
apron now. Right. And I
Yeah.
put my apron on. This is my ritual. It reminds me to take two deep breaths and to arrive. And now here I am in my
Yeah.
kitchen, set an intention. So rituals can be really powerful. I mean, maybe you want to put on your favorite playlist, and that, when done with intention, becomes this ritual, this threshold from one moment to another. Or maybe you pour yourself something special to drink. It can be anything, but those can be little tools to remind us to drop in.
To get into
And
that new environment,
yeah,
new mode. Uh-huh.
yeah, yeah,
I like that. I might
exactly.
have to get an apron. 'Cause I'm the same. I don't wear an apron.
Yeah. It frees me up. It actually, now I refer to it as my artist smock because it just lets me play more. Like I just feel a little bit more wild because I've got the
Definitely.
protection.
Yeah. I like it. This intention piece, I mean, you can bring that into all parts of your life,
Yeah.
like we were saying before.
Yeah. Yes,
So just to have that
absolutely.
pause before you start anything, rather than just running on a hamster wheel, trying to get
Yeah.
somewhere, actually using intention to connect with the moment.
So on my podcast, every other week I interview a guest, but in the in between times, I have a weekly intention series, and it's all about that, just an intention that's on my heart. And it can, I've had so many that just bubble up, and it's usually like kind of a theme that arises that we can set for ourselves to start our day. Like, how does your day shift when you take that time just to get quiet and listen to that inner voice, really, that inner voice of like, what do you need to know today? What is your intention going to be today? And sometimes it's just to listen or to be present. And sometimes, I mean, I sit and I write it down every morning, and sometimes it's like a whole page of stuff, and it surprises me every time. I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. But we can bring intention into any aspect of our life, into work. I mean, when I bring intention into my work day, then I'm really like, this is a really good example, and it's so real because I did not get any sleep the 2 nights ago. We had massive thunderstorms here in the Hudson Valley of New York. And yesterday I had a packed day, and it was ending. I was ending the day teaching a class, an online cooking class. And my intention for that morning was just to be soft with myself. And it really changed the cadence of the day because instead of feeling like I had to control everything while being already kind of at the edge of exhaustion, I just was soft with myself. And I don't know if anything actually changed from the outside. Like, things still got done, but internally I felt far more nourished. Things just felt slower on the inside, even
Yeah.
though I still did all the things. So it was, I was grateful for that because I think I would have really been burned out at the end of the day yesterday had I not been coming back to that simple
Just
little intention.
reset yourself before it got out of control.
Yeah. Yep.
I like that. That's like the burnt toast theory, right? I used to live life like this. Where you'd wake up and you'd wake up on the wrong side of the bed, you'd burn your toast, and then everything just seems to
Yeah.
go out of
Yes.
control, and it's just not pleasant. Whereas if you
No.
can just wake up with the right mindset, the right intention, then the burnt toast, yeah, it might still happen, but it's not going to piss you off and
Yeah.
frustrate you and upset the rest
You
of
know,
your day.
one tool that I want to mention that I didn't mention, well, like with that ritual part, something else that I find super powerful and so easy is
Yeah.
gratitude.
Hmm.
Gratitude is so, and this is, I talk about this in the book. I have something called BEST: breathe, engage your senses, set an intention, thank your food, thank your body. If we can
Sorry, let's
start,
just
if
go.
we're,
What's this? The best
oh
practice, is
yeah,
it? Uh,
yep.
breathe.
So B is for breathe, and that's that breath practice. Engage your senses. So this is just another way to drop into the present moment. Here we
Right.
are, you know, with if you're in your kitchen, you're here in
Yeah.
the kitchen. Let's like this is the space for us to be in our bodies. Set an intention. And then thank your food and thank your body. And there's something really powerful that happens when we do this before we start cooking. We often think, people maybe sit to eat and maybe they say a few words of thanks, although I highly recommend that too. But even if we do that before we start cooking, we start to create this relationship with the foods that we're preparing. And I don't care if those foods, if it's like stuff pulled from your garden, which is beautiful, or if it's a frozen pizza, creating that sense of gratitude, like what that does and what science is showing us is that has a physiological effect on our bodies.
Hmm.
Gratitude. So we can do this before cooking, and we can do this to start our day. If we really wake up on the wrong side of the bed, it's like, okay, what is something I'm grateful for? Gosh, I'm grateful for this bed. I'm grateful for this bed. But that is a simple practice that can shift us again, shift us out
100%.
of a state towards how we want to feel.
How would that look for you before you get into the kitchen as far as
Yes.
gratitude?
It's so the best practice is like, it takes practice to make it automated. But it is now a habit of mine. And it's just a quick little moment of like, okay, I'm breathing, I'm tying on my apron, I'm going to set a little intention really quick. I'm going to just give thanks for this opportunity to feed myself. And this is a privilege that I think when we have gratitude for it, it enhances the pleasure that's available.
Mm.
Gosh, I am so grateful for this opportunity to feed myself. And then it kind of like bubbles out. And I'm grateful for my body, this physical form that knows how to digest this food without my mind doing a thing. I am grateful for this moment. And that's just, again, we're creating these connections with the meal with ourselves. And we're opening the door to more joy. We're opening the door to more pleasure, to that joy that we talked about, that exists in that space, but we might be closed to it because we've had a shitty day. A little bit. These things can just open us. And for me, it's like ultimately the presence and the mindfulness. It's because I want people to remember the
Mm.
joy, the inherent joy. We're in these bodies. We are human and we're designed for this. And when we live in this way, I think we are better able to shine our light out into the world and to do the things that need to get done in a way that is like uplifting.
It's interesting. It's like the most powerful part of our life is right now, the moment,
Mm,
and yet we're all living in the past or in the future,
yeah.
and missing out on what's right here.
Yes.
And I think what you're talking about with this setting intention for that moment with relation to the kitchen, what you can do within any moment, and we will find greater joy in life in general. And that's like
Yeah.
a key to happiness.
It is such a key to happiness. And I think so many of us are like searching for our purpose. Like, oh, what's my purpose? And I found at least that the search it doesn't show itself when I'm searching. It shows itself in those moments
In your
of
present.
presence.
Mm.
Yeah. And maybe the purpose is just so that we can be at our highest, brightest, right? Like maybe it doesn't have to be something so concrete.
Yeah. And like you said, when you get in the kitchen, you've got this goal or this expectation that has to be the perfect roast chicken or whatever it might be.
Hmm.
And we have these goals in life, like it has to be this, it has to be that way.
Yeah.
And we're chasing towards these goals and these expectations. And we're missing that pathway there, the journey there, which is often where the greatest joy in life comes from.
Yes.
You're,
Absolutely.
you've got a meditation practice and
Hmm.
probably a morning routine. Can you talk to us
Hmm.
about your meditation practice, what your morning routine looks like?
Hmm. Yeah. Yes, my morning routine is really my sacred time. And my kids, I've got two kids, and now they're 11 and 16. So when they were
Hmm.
younger, I just want to say this because when they were younger, my morning routine looked much different. I've always had a meditation practice, but that happened after they left for school. Now they're old enough to really handle things,
Yeah.
especially with the help of my husband. So my morning time is just really my time to get centered. And because my work is so heart driven, it's really a part, I've had to reframe it as like, oh, it's not just something I do to feel good. It is like, it sets the foundation for my
Yeah.
business. It sets the
Yeah.
foundation for my day. So after I wake up, brush my teeth, do all the things, I have a little altar in my room, which is just a serving tray, literally, and on it, things that remind me. They're like, I feel like an altar is just a remembrance of things that bring me kind of in connection
Interesting.
with myself, in connection with the world. And that is my meditation time. I light a little candle. It's kind of
What's on
like
your
my
tray? Would you like to share?
ritual. I have, I mean, it is an evolving organic kind of thing. I've got some things from travels, from like stones that I've collected. I was in Ireland earlier this year and some stones from the beach that really just reminded me of that moment and that sense of freedom that I experienced there. We've a beautiful cedar tree in our backyard, and I've got some of the bark on there. And that's again just to connect me to my land. I've got a little vessel, this homemade little cup that a friend made me, and I fill it with water. And again, it's just kind of like connecting to the different elements. And then I've got some things my kids made me. I've got a little statue of, so you can really, it can go as spiritual and woo woo or just stuff that you love. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be, it can be anything. But it's kind of like my time to just tend to it and then sit in meditation. And I am a Reiki practitioner as well.
Uh,
So I do a little Reiki on myself just to like clear the energy. And then I have a journal, and my meditation practice is really, truly about getting quiet so I can hear myself.
mhm.
And I start my day every single day asking myself, what do I need to know today? And the words that bubble up, sometimes it's a few words, sometimes it's a lot of words. Um, Oftentimes it surprises me, but oftentimes also there are themes. Like I went through a whole like month or two where my inner voice just kept telling me to lighten up and play more. And and these are all kind of lessons that I work through, but not coming from my mind, giving my mind a break because I can be such a type A personality and like go and control things and and it's like, no, 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 no. My power actually, and I think my creativity is just magnified when I'm listening to that inner voice and not just the mental stuff.
Yeah.
So that's it. And then, go
I love the
downstairs, make my
altar.
products.
Love that little thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a really
Yeah.
good way to connect with gratitudes too, right? Like
Yeah.
the rocks from Ireland,
Yes.
grateful for your
Yes.
trips and all that sort of thing.
Yes.
When you say meditation, is it, you said you do some Reiki practice as well, but do you close your eyes? Do you do some sort of mindfulness practice, or is it,
Yeah.
how long does it last
For
for?
it's I so like I said, I've been meditating for like 20 years. And there
Yeah.
was a period of my life when that looked like 5 minutes. When my kids were little, it would be 5 minutes and it's still enough. 5 minutes
Yeah.
is enough.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
really it's about, okay, first I'm going to get in my body. I'm going to use my breath to get in my body and out of
Yeah.
my head and to settle and to feel that quiet spaciousness that is within the heart space that feels gentle and vast and to sit there. And it's hard to sit there for our brains, right? And yet that's where even just talking about it, it's like, whoa, I feel just so calm. And then that's really where I hear and I ask the question, what do I need to know today? And then and then I journal, and then I always finish with gratitude. And I send gratitude out to all the things, whatever's calling to me that morning. And then I set an intention for the day, and I always end with a prayer as well. And again, as we talked about, it's not a religious prayer, but it's a prayer for me to kind of be a vessel for the best good. Like, how can
Hmm.
I be a vessel for light and healing? Like, I hope I can provide that in this world. And so I just set that little prayer for myself as a reminder of like, okay, I'm open. Let's do this. What can I do to be of the highest best potential?
Yeah. Okay. So do you select a theme or an intention based on how you're feeling after that sort of moment of silence and what comes
Yeah.
through by asking
That
yourself
just
that question?
Yeah. And then it just comes out. It's not something I have to think about. The
Right.
intention just comes out.
And how long does that last for, that ritual?
Oh, that's a great question. It can last anywhere from 10 minutes to 40 minutes.
Right.
And I have the time. And so it really is a matter of what I'm kind of working through, or how loud my brain is, or I don't know. I guess there's a lot of factors. But it can last, yeah, 10 to 45. There's a big span. And of
Yeah.
course, if I've got to get up and get to a meeting or things like,
Depends on the
I'll be
day.
aware of that. And yeah, yeah. And then
That's pretty cool.
also when I get into bed, um, I get into bed and I always just do a quick little, like, I call it like I wrangle my energy and I just like tune in and kind of bring myself back. It's like I don't just get into bed and pull out my book and start reading. I'm like, I just take that few seconds to be like, okay, I'm here. Let's let go of the day. Let's just like shed everything so that we can wake up fresh tomorrow. And that is a great practice, but it also just like practically speaking helps me sleep, which is really
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. It's a good thing to do. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like that morning routine is very powerful, but having some sort of closing ritual as well can really
Yeah.
help you rest. But I found my active mind, like if I could just write some thoughts down, or clear my head of
Yeah.
what's happened in the day, was always a good way to sleep better as well.
I love that. I love
Do
that.
you see you journal? You do pen to paper in the morning?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's funny because like my journal's here. And if somebody were to pick it up, they'd be like, you're a little like, what even is this? Like I joke with my kids. I'm like, you are free to open this at any time because it's just like, I, I, it's not even, some people are like, today I feel no, 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 no. Like I will do that when I need to do that. But mostly it's just like words that come out and phrases and it turns into sentences and stuff, but it's not structured in any way. It is like
Hmm.
stream of consciousness. There are some drawings in here when I'm just feeling playful and silly. But since I write down, like, what do I need to know today? I write that down and I write down my intentions. So my journal comes with me throughout the day. I work from home. I'm right now in my office, in my attic at home. My journal comes up with me and it's my reminder to keep checking in and to not get swept away into like the to-dos, the to-dos and
Yeah.
all of that, to like just keep checking and be like, oh, I want to circle back to that. And the more I do this, it's like, gosh, it only takes a few seconds and it can shift my entire state of being.
Yeah.
Um, but I like the pen on paper and I like being able to see. Again, I forget. Like if I just do it in my head, I will forget by 10
Yes.
a.m.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is my little reminder.
And have you been doing that for a while as well? The journaling thing, is that aligned with your meditation practice?
Yeah, I have. In fact, I've got a stack of probably 15 journals that I probably should burn or do some sort of
Ah,
some
keep it in
sort of
the archives,
ceremony
right?
with. But I've been journaling for a very long
Your
time.
children might
Yeah.
find joy in that one day. The
Yeah.
what got you into meditation? Like what started that journey?
That's a great question. So I grew up in the Midwest and I went to college in Colorado. And while living in Colorado, I met my boyfriend, who is my husband now of 20 plus years. And he graduated 2 years before me. But when I graduated, he decided to get his master's at NYU in the city. And New York was the one place in the world I vowed I would never live. I was not a city person. But I was in love and I was like, it's just 2 years. And so I went with him. And I'm so glad I did. First of all, that's where I found, cooking as a vocation. But it was extremely overwhelming for my nervous system. And so even though I hadn't been to church and, since I had been a young kid, I found this Unitarian church on the Upper East Side that was offering Zen meditation classes. And it's like I look back and I'm like, I don't even know how I found that. But I started going to these Zen meditation classes at
Mm,
night and I only went for maybe a couple of months, but that is what started my meditation practice.
right.
I realized how profound it was for me. And I'm so grateful because I'm not sure without that stimulus of the city that I would have found meditation so young. I mean, I was 22.
Mm,
I think I would have found it, but I think it would have taken me a lot longer. So it was almost out of necessity, just like, how am I going to survive this city? And meditation I found my way to it through there and then eventually kind of created my own practice from
yeah,
that.
it evolves, right?
Yeah.
What's some advice you'd give to someone who doesn't have a meditation practice now? Because I feel it's one of the most powerful things I ever started doing, and one of the
Yeah.
most hardest things, which is kind of weird because it's so easy to do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so easy, but so hard. And
Mm,
just like anything else, I think my advice is that when you're starting something else, something new, it's going to take practice. There's two things I think I want to say. I've never been asked this question before, but I really like it. One is consistency. And I know that's a sucky thing to say because we all just kind of want to follow our intuition and do things when it feels good. But with meditation, consistency is what's going to make it easier. You're going to create the habit of that meditation practice and then you're really going to reap the rewards. You're going to start to drop the resistance of doing it because it's going to feel so good to do it. It's like once we start eating more nutritious foods, we start craving more nutritious foods. It just becomes easy.
yeah.
So that I wanted to mention. And second, I've never shared this before, but there was a moment when, gosh, we had moved to the Hudson Valley and I was going through some health challenges after my oldest daughter was born. And I found in meditation that I was afraid to drop in. There was like a real nervous system fear
Mm,
to let myself completely relax. And maybe that had to do with the health stuff, with the fact that I was a new mom and holding. But I just want to mention that because we all hold so much. And I think and we do this out of self-preservation, and it's an amazing thing. But I do want to say, if there is fear there, to just allow it and to go really slow. And I promise that fear will dissipate to this point where you can be really vulnerable with yourself. But I don't think people talk about that. They're just like, oh yeah, you meditate, then you enter this bliss state and stuff. I'm like, no, there's a lot that can come up. and and yet you're always safe. Like you're always safe and you can always trust yourself.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think that's why a lot of people don't delve into these practices, because they can be scary when you start to see what's there. And really connect with your thoughts, right? And that's the fear part. Yeah, really good point. Love it. Love your conversation. Love getting in the kitchen and being mindful with all that, and setting the intention for getting in the kitchen and setting the intention for your day. Obviously we've got your book, Mind, Body, Spirit, Food, and your podcast. We'll stick the links in the show notes for everyone listening. Anywhere else people can reach out to you?
Yes. So I'm on Substack at Mind, Body, Spirit, Food. And actually, if you go there, you can find the newsletter and the podcast. And then on Instagram at Nicki Sizemore. And that's Nicki and Sizemore, just as it sounds. So I would love to connect.
That's awesome. Awesome to have you on the show today, Nicki. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Guys, check it out at thehiddenwhy.com. Until next time, peace, passion, and purpose. See you soon. Okay, that's a wrap. Thank you so much for tuning in this week to this interview. I hope you enjoyed the conversation we had. Make sure you check it out at thehiddenwhy.com for all the show notes and links to our guest. And if you have any comments, any suggestions for the show, please make sure you reach out as well. Also, would like to just ask a favor. If you do like what you're listening to, if you love what you're hearing, make sure you subscribe, whether you're listening to this on iTunes, wherever it might be. Subscribe to the podcast so you can stay up to date with all the latest episodes, and some exciting changes happening this year at The Hidden Why, including the launch of our new website, which will be updated very soon. So watch this space for that, guys. And once again, live more fully, have more meaning, find more joy. We'll see you around the next interview.